People are gonna probably say some stupid stuff after I say this because the visitor list this past weekend wasn't good, to be honest with you. But
That's
Sark's,
that's the only downside to 11 a.m.
yeah, Sark's preferred game, at least for or game slot, at least for recruiting at home games, is 11 a.m. because if they win, you can hang out with them all day on campus afterwards, and it's great vibes. But whenever you have an 11 a.m. kick, especially the last week of the Texas high school football regular season, when a lot of teams who make the playoffs are mandatory Saturday morning practices, it's going to be hard to get the in-state guys there. And, that's why the majority of the big names on the visitor list from this past weekend were out-of-state kids. But speaking of an out-of-state kid, I want to talk about Mark Bowman. Talked about him a little bit before, but for those who don't know, I'm about to share my screen. He is one of, if not the top prospects in 2027. He at least has an argument to be made. Why can't I zoom? There we go. But pretty much every offer under the sun. A really unique story. Grew up in Colorado before moving to California, going into his 9th grade year. He was kind of a classic modern day kid where he had been to California too much, and then they found him and are like, hey, you shouldn't come play here. So he's at modern day now, and that's where he's going to graduate. Same school that produced Brandon Baker, Spencer Shannon, and Chris Jackson back in the day, believe it or not. He is also a modern day alum.
Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy's a modern day guy.
McCoy. Hey, you know who else is a modern day guy that's on the Texas roster? Brady Sarkeesian.
Oh, Brady! I thought Brady was somewhere else.
Was he not a modern day kid? I think Brady Sarkeesian was a modern day kid. I don't know. He's a walk-on. He doesn't play. But I cover the scholarship kids, so there's a lot of the walk-ons. I'll get their schools messed up. But with Mark Bowman, this is his second time at Texas. He stopped by back in the spring. Well, he's been on the Texas campus several times growing up, but this is the second time actually visiting. The first time was back in the spring with the California Power 7-on-7 program. It's the same trip that Grayson Littleton, the 2025 cornerback, Texas is in on right now.
By the way,
that was also his first
Brady
trip.
Brady Sarkeesian was at modern day as a freshman and sophomore, and then transferred to Corona Del Mar before his junior season.
Got it.
There you go.
Got it. Well, damn, even coaches' kids aren't safe in the high school football portal.
Man, dude, that high school football transfer portal something else, man.
Oh yeah, but no, with Mark Bowman, you might be like, why are you talking about a 2027 kid at modern day that's a top 10 prospect in the country? Is Texas really gonna have a shot? Well, Mark Bowman's father is from Austin. Was born and raised in the city of Austin, grew up in Austin, asked which high school he went to. And he's like, well, he's just like me, where right before his 9th grade year, he moved to California to play sports in high school. So he never went to high school in Austin, but his father did grow up there. And he grew up a Texas fan. And after college or whatever, he ended up settling down in Colorado, where Mark was born, and Mark was raised as a Texas fan. In fact, whenever I met him, back in the spring, it was the same week. It was the day after he visited Texas the first time. It was at a 7-on-7 tournament in Houston. He showed me photos of him as a kid wearing burnt orange and like throwing up the horns and stuff. And he had like one of those like fake football helmets. It was a lot like the photos they'd always show Sam Ellinger as a kid when he was playing. And, stuff
got
like
one
that.
of those floating around too.
Exactly. So he has a few of those. He showed me. Talked about growing up a Texas fan, watched all their games on TV with his pops, and that was kind of the thing. So, as a tight end, this is not a normal tight end prospect. You don't ever want to compare someone to a first rounder, but this is probably the closest thing I've ever seen to Brock Bowers in person at the high school level. The skill set, ability to line up and kind of have the appearance of a receiver, 6'4.5", 215, athletic as hell. And, also playing high school ball in California. So I love this kid's ranking. I looked at him at that 7-on-7 tournament. That was before the 27 rankings came out. And I was like, there's no way this kid doesn't eventually end up as a 5-star. He's just that talented. And He obviously got the ranking number 1 tight end prospect, number 2 prospect in Cali. But he really loved his time on campus this weekend. I spent probably about 20 minutes on the phone with him last night. Going to have those quotes transcribed sometime today. But had an awesome trip. Got in midday Friday and was there all the way through Sunday.
Nice.
Got some Terry Black's barbecue, rode the Lime scooters around. Saw a lot of family and friends. His dad still has family and friends that are from Austin, as he was obviously born here. And just enjoyed the time. And one thing, Texas really took care of him. I'll have it all transcribed and out sometime today, but I've never heard of an unofficial visit like this. I mean, it was basically an OV because he was there 3 days and visited Texas every single day and met with the coaches every single day.
Well, Sark loves tight ends and he knows how to use them properly. And I think if you look at the way Gunnar Helm's being used this year, as good as that offense has been, I mean, we saw it with an elite receiving tight end with Jatavian Sanders. Now we're seeing it with Gunnar Helm, who's a little more balanced, if you will. But can you imagine this Sark offense? Throw in, if you could just take like a Brock Bowers or a Mark Andrews, somebody like that, and throw them in this offense, forget the fact that he plays tight end. Now you're just talking about a guy who's a difference maker. And for Mark Bowman to look, the 2027 rankings are going to change a lot between now and the time the curtain falls. But if you're talking about a guy who already is being looked at as the top 5, top 10 type prospect in the country, you're talking about a guy forget the position label. You're talking about a difference maker.
Oh, hey, look who the scouting team's player comp is.
Yeah, man.
Brock Bowers. I didn't even know that. I kind of came up with that off the top, but no, really, really like this kid. And I think he's going to be, one of the most important targets for Texas in the near future. Why would I say near future if he's 2027? Well, he is currently working on reclassing to 2026, and not only reclassing to 2026, reclassing to be an early enrollee in the 2026 class. His age lines up with the 2026 class. He was redshirted, so he would be reclassing to the grade he's supposed to be in, like Quinn Ewers and Zealous Hicks. Both of them were supposed to be in the original grade they reclassed to. So he eventually will be a 2026 recruit. And this is important because the in-state 2026 tight end class is pretty much non-existent. I think Keati Armstrong and Nick Townsend are both the best tight ends to have come out of Texas since JT Sanders did. And then the following year, it's back to being a bunch of duds. So they're going to need to go out of state for their tight end take in 2026. And I really think Mark Bowman can end up being one of those 2 tight ends. They're not approaching tight end recruiting like running back recruiting where they're dead set on signing 2 guys every year. But that is the target, is to sign 2 guys every year. And there are 2 guys at Texas that are going to help Texas a lot with this. Gunnar Helm has a lot of similarities to Mark Bowman as a kid from Colorado. Mark Bowman, I forget the name of the high school, but if he had stayed in Colorado, he told me back in March that high school he would have attended is like the arch rival of Cherry Creek, which is the high school that Gunnar Helm went to. So he got to see him catch a touchdown and ball out on Saturday. I got to speak with him after, really enjoyed that. And then the other guy that's helping out is Spencer Shannon. He was in an identical situation to Mark Bowman where he was at Mater Dei and was getting recruited by Texas and ended up at Texas. Saturday after the games, after all the meetings with the coaches and stuff, he went and hung out with Brandon Baker and Spencer Shannon. And he told me he spent 2 hours at Spencer Shannon's apartment just sitting down, chopping it up, catching up, reminiscing old Mater Dei memories, and also just picking his brain on what it's like being a tight end at Texas. So I think really successful trip for the Longhorns. I mean, he literally said on record, Texas is his number 1 school. Texas is his favorite school. You almost never have 5-stars talking like that. So he's far from a decision. He told me his hope is to commit on signing day of next year. So that would be December 4th, 2025, because eventually he will be a 2026 recruit. Not really close to dropping a top 5 or top 10, anything like that. But I strongly believe Texas is either going to come away with Mark Bowman as a commit or they're going to finish 2nd or 3rd. As long as Texas is going to recruit this kid, which I don't see any way they stop, they're going to be in this, if not the leader. So Really good job by Jeff Banks, Steve Sarkisian, Spencer Shannon, Brandon Baker, Gunnar Helm. I mean, top to bottom, it was a great visit. And having been able to connect with his teammate, Caden Dixon Wyatt, who is a top 100 prospect at receiver in the 2026 class, also at Mater Dei. He was one of 3 Mater Dei players that made it down and one of 2 with offers along with Bowman. The other was a 2026 3-star cornerback. But sounds like the visit went extremely well for the entire party. Bowman is there with his parents, so he was kind of separated from Dixon Wyatt at different times. But nonetheless, I think Texas really improved their chances with both this weekend. So, yeah, pretty much it. Just wanted to talk about Bowman. And again, I'll have those quotes and everything that he said transcribed on Horns 24/7 sometime later today. So be tuning in for that one.
Outstanding. Let's trying to think of where I want to go next. Jordan, have you seen anything in the chat that is stands out to you from taking a question standpoint? I don't think we've had too many questions so far.
By the way, this is the scouting report for Bowman from Greg Biggins. This was written whenever the 2027 class was given their rankings. But Bowman is one of the highest rated tight end prospects we've seen this early in the process. He's a legitimate top 10 prospect nationally. Has been drawing a lot of Brock Bowers comparisons all offseason. It's a lofty player comp for a player many consider one of the best college tight ends of the last 25 years, but it looks warranted when you see Bowman in action. At 6'4", 220 pounds, he moves around like a slot receiver with a ton of twitch and change of direction. He has great hands and shows the ability to make plays down the field and runs really well after the catch. At the Under Armour Next Camp in Seattle, Bowman clocked a 4.65 40-yard dash and jumped 36 inches in the vertical, both among the top marks in the country for his position. He's an advanced route runner as well, and it's exciting to think what it'll look like by the time he's a senior with 3 more years to develop. So.
Nice.